I'm VJ Hamilton and welcome to the Autoimmune RESET, the place for you to learn how to thrive with autoimmune disease and feel empowered to take steps to transform your health to feel better than ever. You can start making changes today to improve your health. So with every episode, my mission is to share with you simple ways to up-level your diet and lifestyle with key learnings from my own journey reversing autoimmune disease and inspirational stories from those who have reset their autoimmune symptoms and are now thriving in life. I suffered from autoimmune disease for over 25 years and now I live symptom-free, and I wish the same for you as well. So thank you for being here and sharing this time with me. Now let's get started. Hello and welcome to this Friday 5 episode of the Autoimmune RESET podcast. I'm your host VJ Hamilton. I'm a nutritionist, scientist and expert in autoimmune disease, and I'm also someone who's seen time and time again how your home environment can make or break your recovery, especially if you're dealing with an autoimmune condition, histamine sensitivity, chronic fatigue, or even mast cell activation. Because here's the thing, for many of us, healing isn't just about what you eat or which supplements you take, it's about your total load, the combined weight of stressors your body is carrying, often in the background. And mold is one of the biggest hidden stressors that I see in clinic. When my clients aren't getting results, when we've been working on the gut, when we've been reducing their viral load, and we've been doing other things to improve their health by changing their diet, making sure they're getting plenty of nutrients, and they're still not seeing results, this is one area that we will look into. And when I am working with clients with those types of symptoms, often mold is at the heart of it, because mold releases particles and toxins that can inflame your airways, they can disrupt your gut lining and confuse the immune system, and that keeps it stuck in that reactive inflamed state. In fact, certain mold toxins have been shown to increase sonulin, which is the same molecule that opens up tight junctions in your gut and makes things leaky. That doesn't just affect digestion, it feeds into skin flares, hormonal imbalances, autoimmune flares, and even brain fog. So if you've been struggling with symptoms like fatigue, eczema, sinus congestion, joint pain, or thyroid flares, and you've already cleaned up your diet, your supplements, and your routine, this might be one area you haven't looked at yet. And today I'm sharing 5 simple, powerful things you can do to reduce mold in your home and protect your immune system, especially if you're living with autoimmunity, MCAS, or a chronically overwhelmed system that just needs to breathe again. So let's dive in. The first one is to keep your humidity below 50%. And if there is only one thing that you are going to change, start here. Monitor your indoor humidity. Mold thrives in damp areas. Aim to keep your home between 40 to 50% humidity, especially in bedrooms, bathrooms, and anywhere clothes are dried indoors. A small hygrometer, which you can easily find online, will show you exactly where things stand. If humidity is creeping up, you can open windows, use extractor fans, run a dehumidifier, or use moisture absorbers. And those refillable tubs work really well in wardrobes or under sinks or behind furniture. It's not a cure-all, but reducing excess moisture is a really meaningful first step if you suspect mold. And for some, it's enough to ease symptoms like sinus pressure, blocked ears, or that low-level inflammation that just won't shift. Next is ventilation. Ventilating daily, even in winter, is really important, and it's key when it comes to mold. Your home needs to breathe. So start by opening your windows, even just for 10 to 15 minutes in the morning. Turn on extractor fans when you cook or shower, and avoid drying clothes indoors unless absolutely necessary. And I know this is something that I was guilty of and I still do today because I tend not to use a tumble dryer. So drying clothes when it's not warm outside, then you have to hang them up somewhere. You can now get heated drying racks, which can be quite helpful. It means your clothes will dry quicker, but making sure that you are opening windows if you are drying your clothes is even more important. And if you've got condensation on your windows or that telltale musty smell in certain rooms, that's your cue that mold may be starting to creep in, even if you can't see it. And it's a question that I'll often ask my clients. Is there a room in your house that smells musty or has a smell to it? Because that's normally an indication that something is going on. And if proper ventilation isn't always possible, it certainly wasn't for me when I was living in an apartment in London, and you might be living in a flat or renting, or you're in a high pollution area, then a good quality air purifier with a HEPA and activated carbon filter can really help to reduce airborne spores. It can help to reduce mold fragments and even volatile organic compounds, which can also affect your health. It's not a fix for dampness, but it can make a difference to how reactive your system feels, especially if you're dealing with MCAS or histamine overload. Next is to know when to call in the experts. If you've had leaks, flooding, or if your health feels worse at home but better when you travel or get outdoors, it might be time for professional help. And this is something that I saw in a client who I've been working with recently. We had focused on her gut health, gone through an antiviral type protocol, and she still wasn't seeing the results. She had chronic fatigue syndrome. And when she went away on holiday for 5 days, she suddenly felt loads better. And that's a clue that something is going on in your home environment. I had another client who had started working from home in lockdown, and that's when all her symptoms started. And again, we realized that it was to do with the home environment. And that's when thinking about whether your environment has changed against your timeline of when you started developing symptoms can be really helpful, especially if you've moved house, moved where you're working from. It's the places that we're spending a lot of time in. In the UK, a service I often recommend to clients is Pure Maintenance. They offer dry fogging treatments to safely neutralize mold and mycotoxins without ripping up walls or flooring. It's not something everyone needs, but if you suspect your home is part of your health picture, getting a proper assessment with somebody like Pure Maintenance can be a game changer. I've linked their details in the show notes if you want to find out more about them, so feel free to check that out and message me if you have any questions about that. Next is using mold safe cleaning tools, because bleach doesn't actually kill mold at the root, it just bleaches it. And to be honest, I'm not a fan of bleach anyway. For everyday cleaning, switch to natural antifungals like white vinegar, grapeseed extract, or hydrogen peroxide. These can penetrate porous surfaces better than bleach and are less likely to aggravate your lungs or histamine levels. And if you've got visible mold or on the walls or ceilings, don't just scrub at it. Seal off the area and call somebody in. You don't want to spread the spores, and that can actually make things a lot worse. And then if you're suspicious, if you have done a lot for your health already and your symptoms are stubborn, you have things like sinus congestion, brain fog, fatigue, itchy skin, or histamine intolerance, and nothing seems to shift them, then please consider mold testing. In my clinic, I offer functional mold and mycotoxin testing that can assess whether exposure is affecting your body and give you a roadmap for recovery. I am even surprised at the amount of clients who are still experiencing symptoms when we start improving their health. Then we explore the mold piece, and they have high amounts of these mycotoxins on their test results. And when they start investigating their environment further, or they get somebody like Pure Maintenance in, suddenly they realize that there's been black mold at the back of a wardrobe or in a certain room in their house for a long period of time. And they'll often say, I don't know why I put up with these symptoms for so long. And a lot of my clients will come to me after being very, very healthy for a long period of time, and then suddenly they get these symptoms and it completely changes their life. And when we kind of work backwards, we realize it was when they moved house, or it was when they had some renovations done, or when they changed their work environment. So it's certainly something to keep in mind, and the test can just give you that insight of, hey, I've got a lot of mycotoxins. Where are these coming from? And because there's a lot of people that might not realize that you can be living in a house which has mold growing in it, and your husband or your children might not be affected by it, or your wife might not be affected by it. but you might be affected by it because we're all different, and some people can be massively impacted by mold. I know I am sensitive to mold, and I know when I was living in apartments that were moldy, it certainly affected my health. It wasn't that it held me back from certain parts of my recovery, because I bought an air purifier and I did different things, but it really stopped my progression at one point, and I was still experiencing chronic symptoms like migraines at that point in time. So even if other people in your family don't have those symptoms, it doesn't mean that it's not a problem for you. And if you want to learn more about the test, then again, I will put the link to that in the show notes. So here's a quick recap for this week's Friday 5 and how to reduce mold exposure and explore whether this is an area that it might be worth you looking into. Firstly, keep indoor humidity under 50% and test for that if you need to. Making sure that you ventilate daily, especially kitchens and bathrooms. If you suspect mold, the first step to take is to call in a professional like Pure Maintenance if needed to assess your property. Next is to clean mold safely. If you notice any mold, or just generally when you're cleaning, use those antifungals. They can go a long way. And then test if you're suspicious. If your body is telling you something and you suspect that there might have been an exposure to mold in the past, or currently there might be an exposure, then testing can just give you that insight that you need. So then you can work on it and you know what you're dealing with. Today, it's a short and snappy episode, as it is every Friday. A clean home, a dry home can really make such a difference and can be a powerful tool for immune regulation and long-term healing. So don't overlook it. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on the Autoimmune Reset. If you have any questions about anything that I've covered today, then pop over to the Instagram account at the Autoimmune Reset. You can also join my free group, the Autoimmune Forum. It's an amazing community of people living and thriving and dealing with autoimmune disease. I'm there to share information, to encourage you, to help you along the way. And actually, we're all helping each other out in that community as well. It's a great community, and I'd love to see you over there. If not, have a fantastic weekend, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Thank you very much for joining me today on the Autoimmune Reset. I really hope you enjoyed the discussion, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode. And if you liked it, I would hugely appreciate a review on iTunes, as it helps me understand what you like about the podcast and to help share the information with more people. I'm excited to speak to you next time, and remember, you have the power to take the reins on your health. So keep the faith and celebrate the small wins. Until next time.